And Sean, it's
Great.
wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Wonderful to meet you too, Joe. Absolutely rapt to be here.
Yeah, me too. So let's begin our journey into your work as an entrepreneur, as a speaker, business leader. There's so much going on. I want to
hmm
know 5 years ago, this pandemic just totally did all kinds of things that were unexpected. How did you make it through that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you do things now?
Great question. It was a very difficult time, the pandemic. At that point in time, I was running the first company I started, which was Go Snow. It was a bookings platform for the winter snow sports industry. And how we started that company was I have a background in enterprise software, so I have these skills and a whole career in tech. And I got together with the head coach snowboarding of the US team, and we had a vision. We shared a vision to help make it easier for people to do something that we really love, that brings a lot of joy to our lives, which was snowboarding. So we built a bookings platform. People were using it to buy lift passes and book lessons at ski resorts here in the States, Australia, and New Zealand. And immediately before COVID, so immediately, February, March that year, just as things were taking off, we'd hit some metrics, some big metrics that we were going to be able to get out and raise a Series A round with. And then COVID came.
Yeah.
And for us, we had we thought, right, so we knew we'd hit the metrics. We were getting one of the biggest ski resorts in the world signed up to the platform. In fact, Scott and I were in Aspen on the 8th of March of 2020, getting Aspen signed up to work with us. And unfortunately, with how everything was unfolding, we were in Aspen when Aspen had the first COVID outbreak of the entire ski industry.
Yeah.
So it was a very unfortunate outcome. And for us, it made it even more difficult because we didn't see COVID coming, right? So no one did. And we've gone, right, we've hit these metrics. Let's really push the throttle forward. And we ended up in a place at COVID where we burn everything in the tank because we expected to get out and raise a round in the spring. And we thought, right, we've got the metrics, we've got the biggest ski resorts in the world wanting to work with us. Let's go. And then unfortunately, we really got hit hard by COVID.
So let's get into what you do now in 2025. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of kids. They always have the truth
hmm
serum. They're 12-year-olds, it's career day, and the kid in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer?
Right. So the way I answer that is, you know, I the way I answer that for a kid in the background, in the classroom, is that I created a life that feels really great to me. And how I did that was by following the yellow brick road, following what felt good. How I did that was by connecting to my purpose and then creating things that just felt good to me. And it really was as simple as, I love to surf, I love to snowboard, I love to teach yoga. So these things felt really good for me. So everything I would create in my life would actually help me do more of the things that I love.
Yeah.
And it's way easier than people think to just tune into what is it that's true to me? What do I love? And then start to follow the things that come into your life down that road.
So take me back to when you were 12 years old. What was your dream? What
hmm
did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, when I was 12, I have a brother. He's 12 years older than me, funnily enough, and he had a very successful career in finance. So I always wanted to be a broker like him. And then it worked out differently for me, which was great because I was on a snowboard trip and I got back to Sydney, and my brother's like, a friend of mine works at this software company and they need a young guy to come in and help do all the young guy stuff. And maybe you'd be great at that. Why don't you go and talk to them and have a gap year before you go to university? And it turned out it was the fastest growing software company in the world at the time. And I ended up staying there 3 or 4 years. And it was really the the starting point for a great career for me in the big tech business.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by just, following the yellow brick road, following the things that flow into our lives that are easy and that feel good.
So, when did you come to America?
2016.
Was it always a dream of yours to come over here? How did that happen?
You know, I've loved living here in the States, been very blessed, and I'll say this, I'm so grateful it's worked out this way. I had spent 12 years in the big tech companies. They were always US owned companies. I always had I would always get intuitive hits that, maybe one day I'll end up in the States. Though when we incorporated Go Snow, we looked at several different places to do it, and our first customers were coming from the US. Our first investors were coming from the US. The co-founder of the company was coming from the US. It's like, right, we are clearly a US operation here. I'll uh, I'll get on a plane and I'll move over, and that's how it worked out. It just
Wow.
again just following the yellow brick road, following the intuitive hits, following what felt good to me, and and when I look back at it, I'm like, wow, like how lucky I was to have landed in that tech company at 20 years of age. Just a total fluke, right?
Yeah.
But it just worked out, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
So, being in technology, what is your favorite piece of software and favorite piece of hardware?
Ooh, my favorite, my favorite piece of software. Of course, I've got to say I love bookings. I started a bookings platform for the winter snow sports industry, so I do love bookings. I do love software and software companies and tech companies that actually bring good to the world, right? So I love businesses and companies that create software to help get people outside, to help them live more meaningful lives. There's a lot of startups out there right now that are doing some really great things in the mental health business, and I love that because it's just making it easier for people to get help, to get guidance, to become aware of, hey, maybe I should just follow what's true to me and what does feel good to me, and be able to get their personal growth underway at a very in a way that hasn't previously been accessible for them. So I love all that.
Yeah.
I I worked for my career mostly with business applications, so I won't go into all of the boring business stuff on it. But for me, it's always been those companies that are doing good, that are using software to do good, and there are a lot of those out there right now. And GoSnow was certainly one of those companies too, where we just made it easy for people to book and participate in snow sports and to get outside and to live great lives. And I certainly love it when I see other entrepreneurs and other tech founders creating those types of companies. And on the hardware piece, I'm a big Apple fan,
Yeah.
so I'm going to say, the of course that I think the iPad especially is just one of my favorite tools. I do a lot of travel, which is I've created a lot of opportunity for freedom in my life, so I like to travel with the iPad. It's also great for presenting to potential customers and prospects. So that's one of my favorite pieces of hardware.
So, as a speaker, as someone that knows how to get on a stage and talk to a group of people, what is the
Mhm.
best speech that you've ever witnessed in your life?
The best speech that I've ever witnessed in my life. I've seen one of the great venture capitalists here in Santa Monica. I'll even put his name out there. It's Brian McMahon. He has done more for entrepreneurship in Southern California, maybe even California, maybe the United States, and he's certainly expanding worldwide now. But he's done so much for entrepreneurship. And the best speech I ever heard him make was actually the first one I ever, the first time I ever saw him talk, and he was talking about community, and he's talking about how he landed here in Santa Monica because he's originally from Ireland, and for me, it was inspiring. It was, I could feel the truth being talked through Brian. Like I could feel that he was a man very grounded. I could feel that he was doing a lot of good, and that really resonated for me. He would talk to the importance of community when starting companies, and communities really helping these small businesses, these small startups, because when you start a company, your first customers are always going to come through your personal networks. That's how you get anything off the ground, right? So, a couple of the tech initiatives that I'm involved with right now, it's always like, right, how are we going to get this thing off the ground? It's through our personal networks. So, who knows who? We've got to get on the phone and figure this out and figure out who our first customers are going to be, because our first customers are going to be from people that know us and people that trust us, right? That's how they get past the risk of doing something new. And Brian was speaking to all of this sort of stuff, and the first time I heard him talk here in Santa Monica, and we've been friends ever since. That was 2016.
Wow. So, who would you consider a hero? Who's been an inspiration for you to evolve into where you're at now?
I have many. I have many people I admire for different reasons. I admire many of the entrepreneurs, like some of the big name entrepreneurs, I just love. And and the reason the entrepreneurs are so inspiring for me is in addition to the companies they create, they also live really great lives where they've overcome personal challenges. They've created a cool company. They're in alignment. Their behavior is in alignment with who they are. Like they're healthy, most of them, right? I'm not going to say all, but the a lot of the great entrepreneurs are just out there having a lot of fun and enjoying their lives. And I believe that we're here to live great lives. We're here to be happy and healthy and have fun. And that's it. And I feel like the some of the great entrepreneurs are doing exactly that. I'm also deeply inspired by some of the professional athletes that I love. So I have a background in snowboarding, and I just love how some of the athletes, and a few of them I've been very lucky to meet and work with, and they've they're just so in tune to a sense of fun, and a sense of purpose and a sense of creativity, and I find those very deeply inspiring.
So, how have you, throughout all these years as an entrepreneur and obviously a very busy professional, how do you find balance every day to take care of your own soul, to do the best job that you can? What does that matrix look like for you?
So I do the same thing every morning. I have a beautiful little dog. She's 14 months old now. She's a 12-pound toy Australian Shepherd. She's a beautiful little girl. I mean, every morning I get up and I do something that's grounding, right? And being grounded is the easiest way to really start creating and attracting our dream life. Like it's really important to be grounded and finding these little grounding exercises that keep us there. And one of those things for me is I get up every morning, I take my little dog for a walk. We walk just down to the beachfront here. I'm just 3 blocks away from it, right? Uh, and just depending on what I've got going on, but a lot of the time also there's a couple of routines, a couple of morning routines that I use, and sometimes I'll write pages, just a couple of two to three stream of consciousness pages, and just get any of the junk thoughts out of my mind, right? Sometimes I'll run a meditation, just depending on where I'm at, but I'll do one of those two things at least 5 times a week. So at least through the work week, just to bring myself into a nice grounded state. On the weekend, I'll get up sometimes and I'll roll around on the couch out here just because I'm stoked to have the day off and relax and just chill out. But the in addition to a solid morning routine, the importance of staying grounded is something that I just really want to highlight here, right? And it's about finding these these things that we love in our life that are grounding. And it's again easier than people think. So for me, it's snowboarding. For me, it's surfing. For me, it's walking the dog. It's traveling. Sometimes people will find themselves in a point of life where they're uninspired and so it's like, well, we'll go out and get inspired. And it's like, well, how do I do that? So, well, book a trip, go somewhere fun. Like novelty breeds inspiration. So it's around just what are these grounding things in my life, these things that I can do that feel really good to me, that keep me grounded to my purpose and grounded to the work that I'm excited to do.
So, if you had a dream tonight, ran into the version of you right before you came to America, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated, what advice would you give that young version of you?
Trust yourself no matter what and never give up. And that's the same advice that I'd give to the kids in the school, in the classroom we were talking about earlier on the call.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you walked up to a podium in a room of everybody that's seen you speak or knows you in a business entrepreneurial sense, and you could tell them one fun story about you, like wrestling a crocodile, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear, the first live concert, what would be a fun story you could tell that group?
Oh, a fun story that I could tell the group. There are, I've created a life where I really love to have fun. you know, and the fun stories that I would say of this, like I've always had a lot of fun when I've been pitching companies, right? Where I've been on stage and, you know, and and when I was pitching, initially I was always a little, initially I was when I was getting used to it, I was trying to figure it out a little. And then I just figured, you know what? I'm just going to have fun with this because it really doesn't matter what you say up there. What matters is you pique the interest of the people in the crowd and they go, this guy's a fun guy. I want to go up and hear a little more about what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right. So I got into the swing of that and it just became, it just became fun, and I started to get a lot of joy of just out there pitching. So I would start to tell fun stories and funny things just out pitching I just want to link that to that. It's just like just get out there and have fun.
Yeah.
I love to snowboard. I love to goof around with my buddies. You know, I'm always playing with my dog. Like I I just think that the more fun we can have, the better and the more we relax. When I grew up, I was a very, I feel like I was a very serious young man, you
Yeah.
know? And then I realized, hey, hang on a second. We're here to have fun.
Yeah.
We're here to live great lives, you know? And then I just started to relax and things just became to a place of, I'm just not taking things so seriously anymore.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. As an entrepreneur, what's the biggest risk that you've taken?
Ooh, man, as an entrepreneur, we take risks every day,
Yeah.
right? The biggest risk you're always going to take is when you put your life savings into something, and I certainly did that when I started Go Snow. I put everything I had into it, and and also the biggest risk you'll also take is deciding to quit like a full-time career as I did in the big tech um, in the big tech companies. I worked at several public enterprise software companies, and I still talk to several public enterprise software companies from time to time when I get called about a particular project or different things. So it's a business I've stayed close to. And those are the biggest risks. It's like, because when you start something, these things, they take time. They're marathons. They're not overnight successes. They're 5 to 10 year runs, right? And it's really important to be aware of that because you'll consume cash. You can even consume careers, right? And you've really got to make sure that what you're working on is something that you're ready to pursue with your entire life force and into that and just never give up. Like that's the big thing that I learned with COVID and Go Snow is just never giving up. I ended up I took a job with one of the tech companies as VP of sales at the end of 2021. There was just too much going on in not only the snow sports industry, but just the impact that COVID had on even the cost of software engineering. So software engineering went up 3x during the pandemic as well, and we just couldn't get the capital together then for a restart. there's talk now, given there is new opportunities in and around AI, that Scott Anfang, who's the best business partner that I've ever had, that I was just so blessed with, there's talk now about how might we revisit this. But the biggest risk that you are going to take is putting your own money into it, is leaving your day job. And I would encourage, don't leave your day job, right, until you've got a proven business model, until you've gone out and signed a couple of customers. And that's the most important thing that you're going to do as an entrepreneur, is sign customers. Building a product, to be honest, is pretty easy. You hire a team of engineers, you tell them what you want, you go and you build a product, right? Signing your customers is when you have a business, and it's the biggest, heaviest lift you'll do when you get something started. But that's what you want to make sure of when you're getting moving. It's like, great, I've got this idea. Who can I sell this to? Who in my network would buy this from me? Go and prove that. And then once you prove that, proved you can sign customers, that's when you'd want to look at things like quitting your day job and investing in it yourself and putting your life savings into it.
So let's take this a step further. Of everything that you've done, accomplished, and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
Ooh, my personal growth. That is the number one thing that I'm most proud of. For me, that's what that's what's differentiated me from my past peers, from my past colleagues, from the people that that are still playing it safe, however that is for them, right? The the personal growth is what gives you the courage to get out there and chase your dreams, and and it does take courage. You got to be brave. Like in my case, I've ended up living in Santa Monica, and I'm super grateful for that. Like as I mentioned, I couldn't be so pleased and appreciative of how it's worked out, you know, and just staying true to a practice of growth, of being able to have the courage to show up and overcome my biggest personal challenges, right? And then continue down that road. And for anyone looking to start a company, the amount of energy that you're going to have to put into this, you're going to want to make sure that your energy is going into that and not going into things that are stealing your energy,
Yeah.
you know? And that's why personal growth is so important, because it teaches you that, hey, my energy, which is a really potent thing, right, and a really important thing to start a great company, is so important. And I got to have that running into creating my dreams.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your
Hmm.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Ooh, so my perception of myself, I there's a couple of things that I set out to be known as that are true that's true north for me. You know, I view myself as a great entrepreneur. I view myself as a great snowboarder. That was something that was really important for me to go and accomplish in my lifetime. I view myself as a great friend. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends here in Santa Monica, and I just love being of service. I love being useful to them. I love helping them create their dreams, right? So I really value relationships. Um, you know, and then the the final part of it too is the I just touched on relationships, and I want to revisit that because
Mhm.
relationships they are more important than anything. Your relationships are what help you when you get something started. Your relationships are what help you, when you're trying to get a company off the ground. Your relationships are what helps you through any personal growth you're doing. You know, so for me, it's been, having and true north staying is being a great entrepreneur, being great at the things I love to do, like snowboarding. And then, as I progress now further into life, I want to be known as a great friend, and I've won Boyfriend of the Year a couple of times. So finally, when I go to start a family, I just want to be known as a great dad
Yeah.
and a human being that's done the right thing.
So if anyone wants to reach out, they want to learn more, any of the good business, hire you, where's the best place to go?
So manifestwithsean.com. You can get a free workbook there as well. Love to hear from you, and give me a follow over at Instagram at Sean Bellerby.
Okay, excellent. Sean, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Joe, thank you for a wonderful interview. Appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you a great weekend ahead.
Yes, sir, you do. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.